Hello everyone. I'm providing this optional video in case you'd like to know a little bit about JASP. It's a free statistical computing software program, and I really highly recommend it, especially if you think you're going to be going to graduate school. I also recommend it if you just have a little bit of extra time and want to learn how to do this, because you can always check your work in this class using JASP. It's pretty great. It's a great program, and like I said, it's free. So if you haven't downloaded the program yet, I would recommend that you do that before you watch the rest of this video. And also open up the practice sheet that's above this video as well, and save that practice sheet on your desktop because you're going to need that to upload into JASP. All right, so hopefully you have JASP so you can follow along, or you can do this later as well. So JASP is a point and click program where you can do statistics. It's really great. So this week we're talking about one sample t-test. So I'm going to show you how to do a one sample t-test using JASP. So I've got a scenario here, which is, let's say that there was a team of cognitive and developmental psychologists that want to know if the lead levels in Flint, Michigan had an effect on children. We know that this has been a real tragedy in Flint, Michigan in terms of the water there. So this is not a real study, but let's just say that a sample of 300 children were selected from the city of Flint to participate in the study. And let's just assume that the sample that they're selected from is normally distributed, a normal population. And in the population that these children come from, the mean is 100, and for intelligence, the mean intelligence is 100. That's the only thing we're going to talk about. We have another thing we could do with motor skills, but there you go. So we're talking about, we have a known population of intelligence that has a mean of 100. So what we want to figure out is, are our Flint, Michigan children different than the general population that has not been exposed to Flint water? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to open up my JASP program. And the way that I do that on my computer is I'm going to count, I have it pinned to my taskbar here. I'm going to open it up. And it's going to say, take JASP for a spin. So I'm going to click on that. And it's going to ask me for a file. Now, JASP is different from other statistical software programs in that you don't directly input your data into JASP. Instead, you have to input it from a CSV file. That can be an Excel file, it can be a numbers file, but it has to be a comma delimited file, a CSV file. So what I did is I saved my data on Excel as a CSV file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search my computer for my file. I'm going to browse and I'm going to look for it. Let's see, I'm going to go to my documents or downloads somewhere. There it is. This is the data I'm going to be looking at. All right, and it already popped up the data into the JASP program. Now I need to do a couple of different things every time that I use JASP. I need to check first to see if the variables are labeled correctly. JASP will label the variables as nominal, ordinal, or continuous or scale, which means continuous, equal interval, or ratio. So I'm going to come through here, and I see that JASP thinks that age is a ordinal variable, because this is the symbol for ordinal, and it's not. It's a continuous scale variable. So I'm going to click on this little graph and click down to scale, and I've changed it to what's called a scale variable. Gender was listed. Ones were males and twos were females. That is a nominal variable, so I have this little symbol here which means nominal, so I know I'm good. And IQ score and motor score are both scale variables. They're both ratio variables or continuous variables, so we are well situated here. So I'm going to show you a couple different things first before we get to the one sample t-test. I'm going to show you how to do descriptives in JASP. It's so great. So I can click on descriptives, and I can do two different kinds of descriptive statistics. I can do something for my nominal and ordinal variables, or I can do something for my interval and ratio variables. So the only nominal variable I have right here is gender. So I'm going to move that over to the variables box. And I have to do a couple different things to get a frequency table. First of all, I have to hit the button here for frequency tables, and it makes a frequency table. Then I have to come down here and uncheck some things under statistics. Why is that? Well, nominal variables are things that you can't find a mean, a standard deviation, and all that. So we get rid of all of these sort of descriptive statistics. And what we're left with is a frequency table for the nominal variables. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to this arrow and click on it to make the results section bigger. Okay, so how great is this? If you ever need a frequency table, boom, there you go. It pulls it up that fast. So that was for our nominal. I'm going to click this arrow to come back to our analyses. That was our nominal variable, but now I want to know mean, median, and mode for the rest of these things. So I want to do another descriptive analysis. And in JASP, in order to do that, you have to click on the descriptives button again. And that starts you all over without getting rid of whatever it is that you did. Now I'm going to take age and I'm going to move it over to the variables. I'm going to put IQ score over there. I'm not going to do motor score because we're not really talking about that right now. And by default, remember we unchecked all those statistics before. By default, JASP will give you the mean, the standard deviation, the minimum, and the maximum. So boy, this is an easy way to figure out your standard deviation. Now this will be your standard deviation for a sample as an estimate of the population. I'm almost 100% sure that's the way it is. So I'm going to come back down to here to statistics to see what else we could choose if we wanted to. We could select the median, we could select the mode. I'm not sure that that's giving us a lot of good information. We can talk about, oops, I just lost it. So if I lose it, I just pull it back down again. We can look at skewness. I don't know if that'll give me a number for skewness. We really haven't talked about that. There's a degree of skewness that you can talk about mathematically. All right, anyway, enough of that. Now I'm going to come back up. I have some good descriptive statistics, but I want to show you how to do one sample t-test using JASP. So I'm going to come up here to t-tests, and I'm going to drag down to one sample t-test. This could not possibly be easier. It's going to ask me, what variable are you interested in? And we talked about it being IQ score. All right, so I've got that. But we have to come down here and click on a couple different things. First of all, student. That means we're doing a t-test. Remember from your reading, the person who did the anonymous testing using a t-test and using the name student. So that means t-test. Where it says test value, this is the critically important piece. This is where we put the mean of the population. If you will recall, the mean of the population was 100. All right, and then one other thing we do right here is we tell JASP if we want it to be a two-tailed test or a one-tailed test. And I'm going to say a two-tailed test in this case. It's going to default to 95 or a 5% significance level. So here we go. I'm going to see if there's anything else I want to look at before we look at the results of the t-test. Okay, nothing. So I'm going to go ahead and click out of this. And now we have the t-test down here. And let's see what it gives us. It tells us the IQ score is the variable we looked at. The T is enormous, meaning there's a really big difference between the mean of our group and the mean of the population. Degrees of freedom are right here. We had 300 people in the sample. N-1 gives us 299. Now this is where we look at to see if something is statistically significant. So it's our p-value, and we set our alpha at 0.05 for a two-tailed test. If our p is less than 0.001, that means that we reject the null hypothesis. It's less than 0.05. The p that we have right here of less than 0.001 means there's less than 1 in 1,000 chance that we would find the mean that we have with our sample if the null hypothesis were true, if it was the case that there's no difference between our sample mean and the population. In other words, our observed mean, the mean that we collected with our students, is very rare. If you plot out all the possible means on this distribution of sample means, ours is quite rare. So we take the leap and we say, you know what? Something happened to these children when they were exposed to this water. Their IQs were lower. It was a 95 in this made-up study. So 95 is a significantly lower amount than the population mean of 100. Okay, I'm going to go back for a couple last things. All right, let's see. We can also do descriptives right within the one sample t-test if you wanted to, and that way you would have your descriptives right underneath. You have the n, you have the mean, you have the standard deviation, and the standard error for just the IQ score by itself. So there you are. I hope that this was interesting to you. And for the next module, I'm going to make another video recording talking about the independent samples t-test and the paired samples t-test. So now that we're well into inferential statistics, JASP can be a really good tool for you. Now I want to show you a couple different things. You'll notice that I don't see any data anymore, and that's just because I have to click on this arrow on the left, and that'll bring me back to my data. I'm going to show you a couple more things. Let's say I needed to edit some of the data that was in this table. I could just double click on the JASP file and it opens up the Excel file from which it came. So that's pretty cool. And then I want to show you actually one other thing about saving your results if you wanted to. So I'm going to click here to expand to get back over to our results. We're just clicking a bunch of arrows to get back and forth. So there's a couple different ways that you can take these results and export them somewhere else. One way is to come up to the big results word and click on it and hit copy, and then just open up a Word document and paste it in, and everything is there. You can save it, you can make it a PDF, you can do whatever you want with it. There you go. Sometimes people, for whatever reason, have trouble pasting into a Word document. There's some issues. And if that is the case, you can come back over to your data, come to the upper left-hand corner and hit export results, and you can save them as a HTML file. So I'll do that, and then I'm going to open it so you see what it looks like. So there it is, saved as an HTML file, and if I open it up, it's all there. So this is JASP in a nutshell. Again, this is not required, but if you are interested in learning more about JASP, if you have questions about JASP, I'm here to help you because I think it's a great tool to use. I've said great a lot in this video. I don't know what's wrong with me today. Anyway, I hope you enjoy and bring questions to me.